Howdy, partners. Welcome to the Haunted Chronicles, episode 129. Last week's show with Tony Spira and Frank Chiafari of the New England Society for Psychic Research is available in the on-demand section of ParamaniaRadio.com. Tonight's guest is Dave Considine, and Dave is waiting patiently in the Haunted Chronicles green room and will join us momentarily. Breaking news!
Dun, dun, dun.
Our friend and Haunted Chronicles guest, Bill Hall, will be appearing at the Torrington Library in Torrington, Connecticut, Thursday, September 15th at 6:30 p.m. You must register to attend. I already registered, so I hope to be there. You must register to attend. Bill will be discussing the Bridgeport Poltergeist on Lindley Street, and to register, go to torringtonlibrary.org. Jennifer Jigglypuff Runyon just landed in Chicago about an hour and a half ago, and she's not going to make it tonight. She needs a little rest. And she's at this Hollywood event, it's called, and it has guests like, Jennifer Runyon, of course, but, Joyce DeWitt, I want to go. Joyce DeWitt, Nicole Eggert, I'm searching, Priscilla Barnes, and Barry Livingston. So if you're out that way, go visit. And I'm joined by Brock, the baby-faced assassin, Burroughs.
What's up, Jimmy?
We'll be back to regular nicknames for a week or so.
Yeah. What are y'all doing?
What am I doing? I'm having a lot less fun than you are.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it fun.
Where are you?
We're down in Bristol, Tennessee, and we're going to be playing Tennessee tomorrow at the Bristol Motor Speedway. They converted it and put a field in the middle of the track, and it's going to be fun. It's an 8 o'clock game on nationally televised on ABC, and we found out a few minutes ago that we are leaving at 8 a.m. to get to the stadium because security is not 100% great there. And some of the managers want to go see College Game Day in person, so we're going to get there, and the game doesn't start till 8 p.m., so I think 12 hours we'll have everything set up fine and tested like 50 times. So we should be good to go, but should be a good game. Y'all have to check it out.
Well,
So Jimmy.
yeah, that's going in.
That's what I'm getting ready to do. You said you weren't having as much fun, but how are you doing?
Well, you know me, I don't like to complain. I'm happier than the Tuscaloosa Tabernacle jumping in a puddle of Mrs. Butterworth's syrup. And that's Mrs. Butterworth. Thick and rich. Twice as thick as the leading brand. Mrs. Butterworth.
She's thick and rich.
She is. And our guest, Dave, who's shaking his head going, what kind of program is this? Is going to join us in Celebrity Birthday. So I'm going to introduce him first.
Yay!
Our guest tonight has been investigating the paranormal for, over 25 years, he'll tell us. After 2 active tours of duty with the U.S. Armed Forces, he founded Phantasm Psychic Research in 1994, and I'm sharing that link in the chat also, and that's, He has worked as a consultant for CNN, BBC, the Discovery Channel's TV series A Haunting, and others, and consultant for many books. He has investigated hundreds of hauntings and assisted in dozens of exorcisms, and we hope to hear about those shortly. Dave Considine, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. How you guys doing tonight?
Well,
you can
Dave,
see I brought the crickets.
Yeah, I'm happier than the Tabernacle of Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I heard. Rich and creamy.
Rich and creamy. Bro.
I want to have crickets all the time.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens after I tell a joke on here. So
like I said, it's a live show.
Mm-hmm.
We could have Bigfoot show up here.
I explained to you earlier that we have a little game we play to start the show. And it's celebrities who have a birthday coming up this week, and they appeared in a scary movie or 2 or 3 or 4. And you're going to guess their age, what they're going to be. The first one is Ryan Phillippe, who was in Deadly Invasion, The Killer Bees, Nightmare, The Outer Limits, Cruel Intentions, and 1997's I Know What You Did Last Summer. Ryan Phillippe.
I can't place him.
He also played in Cruel Intentions. He was married to Reese Witherspoon.
Brown hair, tall?
He had dark hair, and he was taller than her, but that's not saying much.
I don't think he's that big. Ryan,
He's not that tall.
If it's the person I'm thinking of, I would say probably... I would say maybe 45.
I'm going to go with 42.
He will be 42. 45 is a good guess if it wasn't sure who. But 42 is correct.
The only reason I know that is because I had a thing for Reese Witherspoon, and I know her age.
Wikipedia.
Yeah. No.
Dave, did you ever hear that joke? I caught Brock with it, I don't know, like a year ago.
How's it go?
I said, Brock, did you hear about the actress trying to kill herself? That blonde girl, Reese, help me out here.
Witherspoon.
Yeah.
No, with her knife. Okay. And there's the crickets.
Oh my goodness.
Goodness gracious. Okay.
This is going to be interesting.
Well, it gets better.
And demons, oh my.
I hope so. Sam Neill, who was in Perfect Strangers. He's one of these people that was in everything, and when you see his face, you're like, I know who he is. But, Perfect Strangers, In the Mouth of Madness, Dead Calm, A Cry in the Dark, Snow White, A Tale of Terror, Event Horizon, Jurassic Park, and played the all-grown-up version of Damien Thorne in the 3rd movie of the Omen series, The Final Conflict.
He also is tall with brown hair, correct?
He is tall with brown hair, correct!
Yep.
Okay, but he has a kind of a long face. I'm trying to picture this gentleman here.
He's the guy in Jurassic Park that was like the scientist that was helping that. Remember, he was putting his hand in that big pile of whatever it was there. That guy.
I would have to be. Well, actually,
he's an older fellow.
Yeah. I would say maybe 50.
Brock?
I'm going to say 70.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong person.
Close. He'll be 69 years old. And you know what? He looks the same as he did. He looks the same as he did in the Omen Part 3 as he does now. He's one of those people that don't age.
Was that the man with the brown hair? Man, I can't picture him.
Yeah, he kind of has a flipped on the side there.
Yeah, I saw the movie.
I'll send you a picture later.
Yeah, send me a photo. Next time I'm asked. I'll be on Jeopardy.
So, we were talking earlier this week, and I for some reason, I love stories when people were kids and had, something odd happen to them. And we're talking about a fishing story. Can you tell our listeners about that fishing story?
Well, that fishing story is what really got me started. I happen to be behind my parents' house, but down by the Farm River. This is, it's an area, it's pretty secluded. I fish there a lot, Sometimes you don't catch anything. But I was in a particular area called the Black Hole. We called it this because if you cast in, you'd either get your line caught on a boulder or a tree stump or something else that was down there. Well, anyway, I was fishing this for a while. And at one point, I had a bite. I was pretty excited about it. So I started to, get myself ready to kind of hook this fish and bring it in. Preparing myself for, whatever was going to come across in the black hole, trying to get this fish around the tree roots. But unfortunately, the fish went around the tree root and snapped my line. I figured I'd call it a night. As I'm trying to break my rod down, and I said, well, I'll put a hook on, and then I'll just, hook it onto the handle of the fishing rod. So I started to put a hook on the rod, onto the line. I just got this feeling. It was to my left side. And I kind of looked over, didn't turn my head, kind of looked over with my eyes, and I saw something, and it was moving. It was on the ground. It was black, and I would say it was probably maybe 6 feet wide, maybe about 8 feet long, about 10 inches off the ground. I fully turned my head because I was really startled and shocked because I didn't know what this was. My mind was telling me this was some type of garbage bag, and I'm like thinking to myself, this thing's moving. And it's like a tar. It really was not, it was gelatinous, but it didn't have really a shine to it. And it was moving. Wasn't particularly smoky, but it had certain attributes to it that were strange. I can't really describe them. Well, at one point it stopped in front of me, maybe about 10 feet away. And I'm in shock at this point. It starts to rise up from the ground, kind of like a pillar, from this big gelatinous mess on the ground. It starts rising up like a pillar. And as I'm watching this, and this is within seconds, it starts to get, on the top, it starts to kind of enlarge. Almost looks like a humanoid shape. I was terrified. I really couldn't move. Like I said, I believe I was in shock. But somehow I gathered myself and turned away from this thing. And there was a bunch of saplings. It was really hard getting through there. My rod snapped. I tripped over my tackle box. And I ran as fast as I could. I ran all the way back up to my parents' house. Ran into the house, told my mother. She said to me that maybe my imagination got away with me, and maybe I saw a bear or something like that. And I told her it was no bear. It intrigued me. I didn't know what this was. It frightened me. I went to the library, tried to study everything I could. I ended up getting a hold of the Demonologist and a few other books, but I was reading through these books like, Grant took Richmond. And I came across some stories in the Demonologist and the Viner case. You know the Viner case, Jimmy?
I read the book probably about 20 years ago, so I don't remember it. I read it, though.
Well, in 1775 and 1846, two people disappeared where witnesses saw a black form just engulf these people, and then it disappeared. Ed said that this could also account for human combustion, because if it doesn't, not disintegrate you, but if it doesn't do one process, I forget how he worded it, where you're going into another dimension, then you'll combust. But it kind of locked me in. I was like, wow, this is something I can relate to. My mother happened to come across an article where they were speaking up at Southern State University. I was pretty young, about 13 years old. And I said to my mother, I want to go, see him. So I brought my book up. The program was fantastic, They showed some stuff that really scared the bejeepers out of you. So after the program, I went up to him like everybody else did in my book and started talking to him. I was really young, he was kind of smiling at me like, yeah, okay. I told him about my story and what happened. And we didn't talk about that case that was in the Demonologist, but like I said, I related it to that. But I told him my story and what happened to me. And I said, I want to do what you do. I wasn't really sure what that was. Not really, not like I do now. But anyway, he said, come back and see me in a few years. So when I was 17, and I had my driver's license and everything, I can get around, I called him on the phone and set up an appointment. And I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, and like after all these years, what do you believe that black mass to be, or do you have a theory, or you're still not sure?
I'm not sure, but it's happening a lot. There are other people who are studying this that are not really in the fields of research, like your average day, Ghostbuster or whatnot, like law enforcement agents, like David Paulides talking about kids missing in national parks, and now he's going into cities and towns where people are disappearing. And
you know what, David Paulides? Go ahead.
What's
sorry.
that? Oh, go ahead.
No, David Paulides. I love you. I'm fascinated by his stories and the correlations he found between missing persons. And the only thing I don't like, he never gives a theory. Like, is it underground dwellers? Is it aliens? Is it Bigfoot? Is it it's like he's I don't know if he's afraid to give a theory or he's just trying to put the word out there.
I'll give you a theory. I think all of this that we see, UFOs, the Bigfoots, all these things, it relates to that place that we call the land of the dead. Whatever you think that is. The earthbound area, wherever these things dwell. It's a different dimension outside of ours. Anything can happen. And when it comes into our world, it doesn't stay long. It comes in and goes back out. Some people have this like you and I have done these cases, some people seem to resonate this. They either had trauma in their life, they attract this, or they move into a piece of property, maybe they have a child that's microcephalic, like we'll talk about in the Diabolical. Something like that, you know, or they're involved in the occult and really attract it. There's a combination, you know?
Yeah.
But it seems to open up a void. Yeah. And you can have Bigfoots, you can have these little creatures with big feet, one eye, bat wings. Somebody sees, you know, this, that, and the other thing. Look at Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch, everything happened. I mean, it's a pretty public case. You know, I know people are familiar with it, but everything. Werewolves to light balls to everything.
And the last I heard, they totally will not let anybody go around there, right? Is that what you heard?
Yeah.
You can't even get close to the place.
That's being handled by, what's his name? Oh, can't think of his name. Yeah, he's a billionaire. He actually, he does aerospace. Matter of fact, he was trying to make that, public space shuttle. Oh, what's his name? Begins with a B. What is it?
Branson.
No, not Branson. What is it, Bert?
Oh.
Bigelow. Bob Bigelow.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the guy that makes the tea. Yeah, I know him.
Makes tea. Yeah, hangs out with Mrs. Butterworth. Mr. and Mrs. Butterworth.
Hey, Dave, this is totally off script because I was stalking your page today, and I posted what we were talking about. I wanted to wait. There's this picture that you had on your page that I've never seen before, and I want to post it in the chat room. And
which one?
You're in front of some kind of print, like a.
Mm-hmm. That's not the first ones we've had. I've had giant wolf tracks that were 8.5 inches long. I could post those up so people can see those. And we've had. We handle everything. Wow. I mean, it went to a point where, and Ed Lorraine did too. If people look in Ghost Hunters, they'll see Ed Lorraine had involvement with Bigfoots. They'll see, in the Demonologist, they wrote about other things, fragmentary things, but Ed would, put in certain things that he thought the public might need to hear, throughout all his books. But in the Demonologist, he really talks to you, the person who's reading that book. I think it scares people because it's so personal. It's like Ed's talking to you.
Yeah. And that,
maybe through a writer, but he's still talking to you. And
so the picture I posted, it's a picture of you with some kind of track, and it says 3-toed, 19.5 inch was it bipedal or bipedal? I heard both pronunciations.
Either way, bipedal usually.
Tracks, location southeastern Connecticut. Now, was that an area where you got reports of that, or did you stumble upon it, or how'd that happen?
It had to do with a case.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So is it one of those cases?
Go ahead.
That had a mixture of, because I've had cases that started out with UFOs, turned into this, then turned into, it's like a mixture of so much stuff you can't even, put it together and make sense. Is that one of?
Yeah, put your thumb on it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've had poltergeist cases where werewolves would show up. We had the mother, she stepped outside for a cigarette. Her son was this was in, where's that prison? Granby, Connecticut. And she stepped out back, and she happened to look at the back of the house, and in the window where her son was taking a shower, there was a humongous wolf's head. And we had huge wolf tracks, and this was a poltergeist case. The mugs would fly. Matter of fact, we had an airplane prop, an old wooden airplane prop that had to be 8 or 9 inches thick at the center. It was broke off from the brass fitting in, the really old props, like the Wright brothers kind of props? Yeah. Well, a person had one of those at this location. Something broke this in half at the brass fitting in the middle. I mean, you know how strong that wood is at that point? Where the brass fitting is fit right in the middle of a wooden prop. It broke it from that brass fitting. And, we'd find boulders on top of the house. We'd find humongous logs. All kinds of things. Everything smashed.
What was this? Early
19? Well, this case here?
Yeah, early 80s?
Oh, no. This was, I would say probably around 2002.
Oh, wow. Recent.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
If people come to my program, any one of my programs, I'll show the footage from that. Because we have, in that particular case, we had a mirror that went through the wall, went through one side of the plastic, or whatever you want to call it, the drywall, and through the other side. And this was a very, dainty antique mirror. We had a fist mark that went straight through a mirror that was about 1 inch thick with silver back. One of those really old mirrors. It punched a hole right through it. knocked over cabinets. The whole house would vibrate. I have it on video. I show it during the lectures, where you can see everything in the room, the whole room, the dishes, the cups, everything in this house is vibrating as I'm standing there. And I'm describing it to you. The whole house would vibrate.
Guys in the chat, we shared your friend page and your website, so if people want to attend a event or lecture or anything, you can keep in touch with Dave there. Now, I have a question about the poltergeist. Now, was that one of those typical poltergeists where it just starts and then ends on a certain day for some reason, or did that they still having problems? Do you know?
Well, there was one child that had some involvement with a family member, and he started to do some very strange things. He was visiting with his grandmother, and that's where the poltergeistic activity began. Well, he was taking and digging up the grandmother's old dead dogs from the backyard, for over the years. It was like 3 or 4 dead dogs. Might have been a cat, I don't remember. And he's digging them up, and he's collecting them. You'll have this in your children. They start to, for some reason, they become fascinated with death. If you have a serious poltergeist case. But the kid would come over to the grandmother's house. Now, the child, you have a pubescent child here, very disturbed. He has suffered trauma. I don't want to get into that on the air of what happened to him. But going over to the grandmother's house, now the grandmother has Alzheimer's. She's by herself. The family is a very short distance away. She's in the house. She doesn't want to leave. Okay, so you have two minds that really aren't okay here in this house. The activity in this house just exploded. I mean, everything broke. But the strange thing about this is that we had these ferret-like creatures that showed up. During the twilight time, it only happened a couple of times, but we had around our feet these what looked like black ferrets. I also had this once in a graveyard in my earlier days. I was in a graveyard here in Connecticut, and I had these, whatever they are, that were around my feet. That's the only other time that ever happened. But what these things are, I don't know. They look like either huge slugs, or they look like a long ferret, but they're black. There's no head, there's no tail. It's just they go around your feet. They seem to encircle you, then disappear.
Wow. And while stalking your page, I told you we were going to talk about a few things, and I found some extras on the way. So I got extra bonus footage.
Jimmy, I'll show you when I see you. I'll show you the casts from these tracks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I cast all those.
Actually, I think I haven't seen you since 2006.
Somewhere around there.
We get busy. Anyways, I'm posting a picture that you labeled it Ritual Magic Circle for the invocation of spirits.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? What happened in that case there? What was going on?
I was contacted by a mutual friend, one of the earlier cases. The mother had purchased the home. It was with her 20-year-old son. After a period of time being in the home, the son wanted his own space. They lived in the house, didn't really have too much of a problem. They reported that from time to time things, would seem funny in the house. They would get funny feelings, but nothing that was significant. Well, the son wanted to move downstairs, so he didn't like the carpet that was down there, so he started ripping up the carpet, and he found this magic circle. And the preceding days, they started to have an outburst of activity. So you would hear banging and whatnot. It's anytime that you seem to do alterations to the home, being that you're doing something major or even something minor sometimes, you can reactivate something that is there in the larval state. This was a ritual area. Someone used this. As a matter of fact, there's a wall in that photograph. If you can take a look at that photograph, to the left-hand side, you'll see that the circle actually goes beyond the wall. So either that wall wasn't there at the time of the construction of that circle. Now that's on top of a concrete foundation. So, but unfortunately, we weren't able to do too much with that. That's basically archiving the situation. The person was not really inclined to go any further than to just have it consecrated and then whitewashed. That was about as far as that went. But the activity seemed to peter out, which was very good for them.
And we have a chat in the we have a question in the chat room. Did you take a picture of the whole thing with the carpet out?
Yes, I have videotape of it too. So I went all around it with the video camera and describing it, did close-ups and whatnot. So we'll have to put this onto like a video, like a DVD at some point. Put all the different kind of the highlights, over the years of what we've collected.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, we have some strange things.
Well, and we're going to get into exorcisms on the other half of break, and it's almost break time already. Wow. We're talking to Dave Considine. We'll be right back after these important messages. Welcome back to the Haunted Chronicles, home of your guaranteed halftime shout-out to the chatters in the chat room. Thank you for stopping by, Diane, Dr. Dave, Heavy Metal Psychic Melissa, Indy Dwayne, Joyce, Vicky Johns, Lisa M, listening in Utah, Nicholas, Kara E, Wolfie, Valerie, Maggie Renee, Bobby Ann, Jane Doe, Max, and Heidi G, Frankie B, Corey, Rick, and Scotty, and there's over 30 shares of this event tonight, and Facebook will not allow me to see them all. And I don't want to thank 3 people and leave 27 people out. So thank you, everyone that shared the page. David was sharing some great stories with us, and I was strange. I know people. I want to hear about exorcisms. How did you get started with the exorcisms? How did that happen?
Well, it was Ed and Lorraine. You know, those first exorcisms. You almost have the same history, you know. And I went off and started to work with others. One of the primary ones was Bishop Robert McKenna, who you know intimately. You worked with him. But I worked with him and Father Rama Kumaraswa Swami. We had an office, an area in an upper part of the building that we kept set up all the time for exorcisms. And people from around the country that needed this, you know, there's a process that we went through. It was good because Father Rama Kumaraswa Swami was also a psychiatrist. We were able to, you know, kind of attach onto that. It really helped things out a lot. He was the assistant professor at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, the psychiatric department. So it was a big help.
And he did. But we had this a few exorcisms I was at. Rama.
Rama? Oh, you met Rama too. Good, yeah. Good.
Big dude.
And, a little guy.
Yeah.
He along with Father Malachi Martin, Father James Labar. The work with Father James Labar took a lot longer because there was a process that was about 2 years almost, you know, for that. The last one I did with Ed Lorraine with Father Labar was a gentleman, actually a young man from Jamaica, and he had the spirit of death. I remember riding up with Tony and Ed. I believe I had him in the passenger seat, and I was driving behind them, and he kept on saying death, death, death. And it looked like his mouth was cracking like a pumpkin up to his ears when he was doing this. And I'm driving down the road going to Hydes Park, New York, going to Father James Labar's, you know, where he was in his parish, and wonder if I was going to make it there.
You know,
I think John Zappis, he was with him on the final exorcism, I think.
You know what's really weird? The change in times is that now you can get a ticket for, you know, looking down at your phone while driving. And you have this guy in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, that was dangerous when you think about it. The people you drive home from or pick up at the airport to get to the church or wherever you're doing the exorcism is you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we picked him up. He was waiting for us in front of this building. I don't even know what it was. I don't remember. It was some building, but he was waiting there right on the sidewalk. And he got into the car, and he was fine for a little while. When we got closer, he changed. He progressively became worse.
Oh wow!
But when he was kneeling in front of the altar, I saw at one point in time he looked like he was about maybe a half an inch or an inch above the ground, like he was kneeling down, but he wasn't kneeling down on the ground. But he always had his head, you know, dipped down. But like I said, the last exorcism, I don't know why I wasn't there, but he did have a final exorcism. But I think part of the team, I think John, you can ask John when you see him, he was with him on the final exorcism. Just remind John, just to say the Jamaican boy with Father James Labar.
That was a Labar case you're saying, right? The levitation?
That's Labar, yeah.
I remember he said that people say that nobody ever levitates just in the movies. He's the only one, you know, I believe he said during an exorcism, somebody was floating above the chair, like a foot or so, and he's the only person I've ever heard admit to that.
I don't remember him saying that, but I vaguely remember him saying somebody in a front pew something was going on with somebody in the front pew. Or maybe I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
Well, you know what? We had Tony and Frank on.
They can instill upon you, in such a way, influences. They can influence your mind where you can see things that you think you're seeing. So when I'm looking over and seeing that, is that really happening in reality? I couldn't tell you.
Right. And that's why this is off the. It's not on our sheet either. But do you remember there was a case at Our Lady of Rosary Chapel that a woman pulled the pew right out of the concrete, the bolts and everything? Were you at that
was
one?
The one where her teeth looked like they were charred black?
I don't know. It was a little before my time, and I try to get the real story. I hear little bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, I believe Matt was there. I can't give you the last name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's a little larger, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the name I'm talking about? And I think maybe Dennis, and his last name sounds like an Indian name. I don't know if you're on. I can't say these last names.
I get your clues.
Wait a minute, I can write them on here though. I can write them. I'm sorry, I can't say them in public. There you go. Sound familiar?
Yes.
First name Dennis?
Yeah.
He was involved with quite a few cases. Smurls, Amityville. Might want to track him down. He was involved with some super early ones. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm asking.
I might be able to help you with that.
If they have anybody in questions in the chat room, let me know. What's your theory on this? Should a priest, demonologist, or people of great faith do this?
Could you repeat that again?
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's what it says. I'm not sure if. Okay, I know because I know it's dangerous for people not trained for removing dark entities and attachments. What's your theory on this? I think we're just saying is, you should probably be properly trained in dealing with these kind of cases. And how would you go about that?
Well, you'd have to work with somebody who's already involved with it. It's very hard to do nowadays. Everybody's saying they're involved with it. You have to make sure where the information is coming from, and spend some time and make sure that you have. Well, the most important thing is to be in the state of grace. If you're going against something spiritual, you better be pretty clean.
I got a story.
Go ahead.
I don't want to bump into your time, but I was asked this question last week. They said, "What was the first time you ever went to an exorcism?" And Lorraine told me, she goes, "Make sure you're in a state of grace before you come." So I said, "What's that?" She said, "Go to a confession." So I go to the confessional and I said, "Forgive me, Father. It's been whatever couple of years since my last confession." He's like, "Well, why now?" And I said, "I'm going to an exorcism." And he pulled me out of the booth and sat me in a chair. They wanted to hear all about it because I guess they're really interested in that, but a lot of them aren't involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean,
you can't keep yourself perfect, but you try to do the best you can. And going to confession really helps a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point that you made there. I think a lot of people today, it's like there's demonologists around every corner, and I think people don't understand that the danger in going after that side or trying to get into that side without having a firm base with someone who's been there.
Mm-hmm. And even then.
Yeah, exactly.
I was with Ed in a house where he was grabbed by the throat and thrown into a room. So your teacher, the person that there's nothing going to happen to this person, I mean, I knew things happened to them, from reading the demonologist when I was a kid, but when you're there, it's striking, So,
it's a dangerous field, but with the magic of TV, everyone wants to say they do that, and then you have every other haunting is, it's a demonic haunting, and it's like, no, it's not. There are demons out there, but it's, not every case out there is demonic.
You have elemental spirits.
Mm-hmm.
These are very ancient spirits. They're akin to the fairies, Some of these countries, they know. They build roads around boulder fields. They don't go around trees that are known to have been fairy trees or fairy bushes. They don't mess with that. Because things happen,
Yep.
Even around the moors, they will report that a giant pair of hands will grab their steering wheel and try to make them crash their car. Goats have been found symbolically put into a box shape, whereas there's a goat here, or even sheep at times, and put into these what look like squares. They found at one point in time there was missing cows in that area because they built these roads throughout this moors, and this is where the dead reside. They built these roads here, and they had at one point these cows missing from a farm field. There was like 200 cows. The police were searching everywhere. They found them all huddled inside of a fenced-in area that was closed, so something apported them there. All kinds of things were happening. Light balls. You don't mess with those elemental forces. As a matter of fact, I'll let you in on a little secret. Raggedy Ann, Annabelle. You know who I'm talking about, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to
Well,
see
if
it
you look
tomorrow.
in the fairy lore, she's a doll that comes from the area of Germany. And this is a fairy. It's called a Ragana. You can look this up. It's called Ragana. It's a tree spirit. It's an elemental type spirit. The individuals over in Germany, they carry the traditional ways. Even the bear, where you see the teddy bear, that's only because of Teddy Roosevelt. Those bears were in relation to Krampus, that Krampus type character. This hairy, hulking thing that was supposedly in the woods that they warned their children about. They were given this kind of like a gargoyle, kind of to repel evil. But the intention wasn't to be a cuddly little bear. It was more of a totem to repel evil. You'll also see over there, they'll put the Star of David, or even a pentacle on the front of a crib over in those areas. So, but like I said, they have a high regard, for those forces. You can have elemental spirits, you can have human type spirits. I say type spirits because once you're dead, you're really not human anymore. The idea of being human, if you look in a law dictionary like Blackstone or any one of the standard law books, you'll see that it basically describes flesh. It has to be a hunk of flesh that's intelligent. It actually goes on to describe this in great detail. Won't get into it. But you can look this up. So the idea of something being human, in a spiritual sense, it's human-like. It has characteristics because it once was. Hopefully, if you're dealing with something that's a human spirit, that's what it was. You're not dealing with something more infernal. That's the hard part in cases, and you know that, Jimmy. Trying to find out and identify what you're dealing with.
I got a question from the chat, and I'm going to add to it. It said, how many exorcisms can one lead and still hold its sanity? But I also want to ask you, did you notice any, I know there's certain people that almost invited a demon in by doing certain activities, but then there's other people that just appears at random. Did you ever find a common denominator for...
There's always something in their past. In a lot of cases that you'll have a lot of phenomena going on, you won't even think about it, but as the interviews go on, you'll find it went farther back. I have a family right now in Idaho. This is strange. As a matter of fact, two of the family members had witnessed a Bigfoot-like creature with an insectoidal head running through an apricot field. They're having balls of light.
Whoa, what was that? What kind of creature?
Bigfoot, a lanky type Bigfoot creature, hairy body, looking like a Bigfoot type creature, and it had an insectoidal head.
That's crazy.
And so you have a combination of the Bigfoot and the mantis type creatures, which are talked about in ufology.
That's what I was thinking. Alien.
Wow.
Now,
these are aliens, but where are they from? There's no evidence to say they're extraterrestrial. Is there life? Is there something out there? There might be. Even in the Bible, Jesus had said that my Father has many mansions. What does that mean? Is it different dimensions that other individuals reside, or different planets? I don't know. But it seems to be kind of hinting at there's more. But if something was perfect out there and it didn't fall, I don't think it would want to interact with us. And if something's interacting with us, we have to understand the word demon means knowledge. Also, angel means messenger. We have to be very careful what this knowledge and these messages are. Something might be posing in this world and has been posing as a malevolent force and a benevolent force. Just because it seems good, it may not be. And I talk not just about, people involved with the paranormal, also people who are religious. Be very careful. These things lie.
I had a question from the chat. I didn't understand what they wanted in regards to, I guess maybe haunted animals. Did you ever have any cases with animals involved?
Yes, the Nellie case, the cat said hello to me. He was underneath the table.
That's not
you know about the Nellie case. Were you at the Nellie house?
I don't know.
Okay, that was the case where the woman was actually, during a family event, she was lifted out of the chair, turned over, and then dropped right on her head. She wouldn't suffer much injury-wise, but she did have some bruises on her. She had bites on her. That's the one where Ed went over. This is the case where you may have heard this story. Ed went over to the house. It was snowing. He had gotten a phone call from Nellie, or he thought. He went to the house. He knew the key was in a certain place at the house. He got the key. He went into the house. The second door in, it was open. He heard a voice, "Ed, I'm in here." He went and stepped into the area right in the middle of the main living room. I remember being in that. It's a large area of the living room. To the left is her bedroom. You have to go through a little hallway and then take a right. She said, "Ed, I'm in here," a second time. He went into the room. He stopped at the hearth of the door. Whatever was in the bed turned over, and it was a grotesque, hag-looking form that was in the bed. He backed out, took his holy water out of his bottle, and made the sign of the cross, backed out of the room, and he left the building. Okay. He finally made contact with her. She never was in that house. I believe she was either with her sister or a friend, but she was not at that house. But he locked up the house and left.
Wow.
Very
And
bad case.
what was the strangest thing you've witnessed in an exorcism or by a possessed person?
I would say going back to levitation. We had a case in Indiana where during the exorcism, she levitated. I have it on film. You actually see us looking at each other because the chair there's no weight to it. The woman weighed over 200 pounds. Her ankles were totally secured to the bottom legs of the chair, and she had no shoes on. And that chair goes up, it wobbles, it kind of oscillates back and forth, and then easily sets back down again. You see it go up and it goes back down. It's not rapid. It's slow. But you'll see us looking at each other when it happens. Oh, and you'll hear someone praying in the background. I'll have to show you these, Jimmy, so you understand what I mean. It's kind of hard to describe these videos, and these things. But levitation is very strange. Ectoplasm. The first time I ever saw ectoplasm was during the Diabolical, which was presented on A Haunting. But it wasn't like they presented it. You have to present it in certain ways on TV, But this was, it was kind of like a grayish material, and when you tried to collect it, it disappeared. You couldn't touch it.
And do you know, in your experiences, did you have people talking in other languages or vomiting during exorcisms?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I don't have it prepared now, but if you want to talk again, I can play. Oh, yeah. When I do, I have to use provocation in regards to a person who's suffering from possession. Upset, they're going through the 3 stages. They were at there's really not a far leap between oppression and possession. It's not really it's hard to differentiate where they are in that. But during this time, I am trying to find out certain information, and you'll hear her. She talks in Aramaic. I found that out because I took the tape down to Yale. My father knew the linguistics woman who was working in linguistics down there. He was friends with her for years. And he friends with all the people down at Yale, luckily for me. But she listened to it, and she said that it was ancient Aramaic.
Oh, wow.
So the woman would definitely not know this. She was a history teacher, but she ended up committing suicide, unfortunately. She did have an exorcism, but it's the person, this is not a magic pill. It has to come from the person. That's why we try now, years ago, we did certain things. After you do the same thing over and over again with people, you start to kind of come up with a plan for each type of person, coming out of a cult or we start to strengthen the person before they even get involved in anything like that. So it's prayer regiments, nothing overwhelming. We don't want a religious zealot, people buying statues and all this stuff, because you're doing that out of fear. We want the person to kind of level out because, Jimmy, you could agree with me on this one. When you go into a case, it's bad. Their head's over there, their torso's over there, their midsection's over there, their legs are over there, and their feet are over there. They're scattered. Right. Family sometimes is just completely broken,
The best way I've heard it described is that they said your body's a car.
Yeah.
And you're in the back seat and someone else is driving that car.
Absolutely. It's always trying to give you its mind. That's the whole process of when a demonic intercedes in any person's life. Everyone out there, understand, it's trying to give you its mind. So in the end, you think that the thoughts that are in your head are yours, but they're not.
I have somebody. There's a couple people in the chat room that said they hear strange noises, even behind your voice and the cricket sounds. So just for the record, when we go back and listen to this, we've gotten EVPs, voices out of nowhere when we do these shows a lot. So just for the record, what's there? So if we listen back later, we'll know that if it's natural or not.
Let me know.
Okay, we'll listen back first. Brock, any questions?
Nah, I'm
listening.
taking all this in. It's pretty cool to listen to all these stories, and I'm fascinated by them because I think as a person in the paranormal, you kind of have to have an understanding of it. But I think a lot more people need to hear these stories so that they can say, okay, maybe the demonology area is not where I want to be, because it's one of those things that people jump to it because they think it's cool. But yet, when these things start happening, it's no longer cool.
We only have a couple minutes left, Dave. But do you ever have anything happen in your house while investigating cases? And what happened?
Well, 2011, I was out of commission for about 6 months. I was attacked over a 3-day period of time. And I had bruises all over me. But I was weak at that time. I was handling too many cases. I was helping other people with their cases, like Marked by Evil, even with Rick, which was on the A Haunting program. And just during that time, my father became sick. I had some other individuals pass away in my family. My father had cancer, and he also has glaucoma. He can't see, he's blind. There's a lot hitting me, just became weakened. And at one point in time, I was sitting at my office, area, and I was sitting in the chair, and all of a sudden I felt this tremendous pain in my stomach, the solar plexus. I tried to get up, started to feel as though I was going to pass out, and I heard some type of whirring, like a whir, and I ran for the door to try to get some air, I just had to get out. But somehow I ended up turning the corner, and I went into the bathroom, and that's where I stayed for most of the time over those 3 days. And I remember something just hit me in the back, and I had some visuals where I saw a purple sky, and there was these small children that were sitting, and they were in rows and rows, and it was like millions of these things, but they were visuals, I thought I was going to die. I remember at one point that I came out of it, or semi came out of it, and Barbie was by me. I was telling her goodbye. Because I thought I was going to die. And I was praying. I was having, the only thing I can akin it to, because later I did have them, was panic attacks. But I had them for about 6 months, and then everything stopped. Barbie handled some of the cases that were coming in. I had other individuals that were helping me too. Took a break for a little while. Strengthened myself. I used the same techniques that I use with people in cases, Kind of looked at, what was going on here. And like I said, it was just a time when I just felt bad. Really, really bad. And that's when they're going to come. And it's not that I'm special. They don't come because you're special. It just gets you out of the way, so you won't do it no more,
We're out of time. We have to have you on again. There's so much more to talk about.
Yes.
And please visit Dave's website, phantasmresearch.com. And there's a new show coming up. Please stay tuned for that. Good night, Brock. Good night, Dave. Good night, Dr. Dave. Good night, Paul. Good night, listeners.
Good night, guys. Good night, everybody.
See you next week. Good night, Dave.